you about my favorite books from the spring of 2021. I am sticking with 8 books again. I wasn't sure if I would be able to do that, but I just started writing them down as I was looking through my Goodreads reading challenge because I find that just such an easy way to document my reading. And here we are with 8 books. The first is The King's General by Daphne DuMaurier. You might be surprised to find this on the list because I was so annoyed at myself when I was editing my March reading wrap-up. I forgot to actually talk about this book. It was part of a knit and listen project that I hosted, and because I listened to the audiobook of it, and I showed the blanket that I worked on to show you the blanket that I worked on while I was listening to it, and then I didn't talk about the book. And I think this might be my new favorite Daphne DuMaurier. Honestly, I really think it might be. So maybe also it's more of the mood that I'm in this year, where for less dark things and more light things. I don't know. But it's about Honor Harris, I think is her last name, and her relationship with a man named Richard and a time of political upheaval in England, the Civil War era, and it's just so engaging and all-encompassing, and I was on the edge of my seat. It does not have this, I don't want to give away too much. I wasn't sure at the end how I felt about the outcome of the book, and I just wasn't sure how I felt about it, but the longer I sit with it, the more I'm okay with it, and for reasons that feel too spoilery to go into, I think I'll just leave it at that. I highly recommend this one. It is more historical fiction and less like gothic suspense, Daphne DuMaurier, and yes, it was very, very good, and I was so just pleased to find another Daphne DuMaurier that I liked. I finally have a tiebreaker after loving My Cousin Rachel and Rebecca. Now I really want to reread Rebecca though, and not loving Frenchman's Creek and Jamaica Inn. I finally have another one to love. So I definitely want to read more Daphne DuMaurier in the future. And then another March read that has ended up on my favorites is The Year of Miss Agnes by Kirkpatrick Hill. This is a kind of semi-autobiographical novel. And it is about a woman who moves from England to Alaska to be a school teacher. It is a very simple, brief little book. It's just over 200 pages. I read it in a matter of a couple hours. It's a middle grade book, and you're hearing first person from one of the students at Miss Agnes's school about what it was like, her teaching and their little town, and how Miss Agnes has this ripple effect on everyone in the town. And there is just something that's really magical about the writing in this book, how it's such a simple story, but it made such an impact on me of what a dedicated teacher can do, what a good teacher can do, what a difference they can make. And it's beautiful. It's beautiful. And I loved it. So I definitely want to reread it many, many times. I'll get my own copy eventually, and I definitely recommend it if you're looking for a good middle grade book. Then number 3 is Walking Across Egypt by Clyde Edgerton. This was another one that was rather simple, and just as I kept listening, I was like, I don't know what I love about this book so much, but there is something. And I think it was just the character of Maddie at the end of the day. And you're seeing this woman, she's really in her later years, and she's looking back on her life and reflecting, but you're also seeing her do her day-to-day tasks and interacting with the people that she does daily, going to church in her little sleepy southern town. And it was my first Clyde Edgerton book. He is kind of somewhat of an iconic Southern author, and it's definitely not my last. I want to read so much more by him. And my dad, I know, has read his book Rainy, and I very much want to read that. So again, another simple one, but just something about it just struck such a chord with me. So don't go in expecting this larger than life story, but it's a bit on the quieter side. I really liked his writing, and I loved his protagonist. 4th on the list is The Tale of Hilltop Farm by Susan Wittig Albert. This is the first in a cozy mystery series. Now, mysteries I usually When I talk about mysteries, I don't usually talk about individual ones because the series start to blend in as a whole. So it is a bit, kind of surprised it ended up on the list, but maybe because it was the first one in the series, or there's just something really special about The Tale of Hilltop Farm. It is a cozy mystery series featuring Beatrix Potter as our sleuth right after the time that she has moved to the Lake District. And if you had told me more details about this series going in, I probably would not have given it given it a second glance. The animals talk in this. There is a cat named Crumpet, but that is an aside. I just have to say it every time I talk about this book because I think it's the cutest thing ever. The fact that the animals talk, I think I would have been like, really? I don't know. Am I interested in this series? But it's all in the execution, right? If someone can have a ridiculous idea for a book, but if they do it well, it can be amazing. Like, honestly, I think I would have thought the idea for The Other Bennett Sister, a book about Mary Bennett, are you kidding me, was ridiculous. But if you do it well, I will support you. And The Tale of Hilltop Farm, it just had everything a person could long for in a cozy mystery series. It's astoundingly good. And what I liked, especially too, is if you aren't keen on the murdery bits in mysteries, this had barely any murder in it. It was really almost felt like Miss Reed or Jan Karen. And I liked that about it. You know, if you want more sleuthy ones, turn to other series. But if you want really heavy domestic ones, try this series. So I definitely want to read the next one in the series sooner rather than later. And then The Two Princesses of Bamarre. And I have Taylor from The Babbling Bee to thank for finally getting to this book. I don't know why I DNF'd this a few years ago. I don't know, because this time I picked it up and I was hooked from the beginning. And I think it just goes to show sometimes it's just not the right time to read a book. Be okay with that. Come back to it another time and see what you think of it then. This is about two sisters, and one of them gets, I think they call it the blight in that book. And it's this illness, there's no cure. And once you have it, you will die. And it is about two sisters' love and devotion for one another. And the one sister, the lengths that she will go to save her sister. It is so beautiful. And just so many of the reasons that I love Ella Enchanted. You know, I loved this. I loved all of the traveling that happened in it. There's also a fair amount of handicraft in this, which always wins some points with me. When your hobby is featured in a book, you're going to like it. And so good. So very, very good. Highly recommend. Okay, then Son of the Shadows by Juliet Marillier. I read this in the month of May, and good gracious, I was very nervous after loving Daughter of the Forest so much. Was I going to like this? And did I ever? Did I ever, people? It's like the series of dreams for me, where it is this kind of like Celtic folklore origin kind of thing. And, you know, that setting, ancient Britain, and fairy tale feel to it. Just so high in characterization, and it always has some romance. It's just so perfect, and her writing is so literary, and it does take you a little while. It's not going to be your typical like plot-based reading. You really sit with the characters, and you are going through everything that they are going through. I cannot recommend these books enough. There is sexual assault. You see it happen in Daughter of the Forest, and there is mention of it in Son of the Shadows, but you don't actually see it happen. I loved this book. I loved it. I don't really know what else to say about it. Then number 7 is J Curve by Paul Miller, some nonfiction landing on this list. This is a very special book, basically talking about the intersection of sanctification, which is, becoming more like Christ, and justification, which is you are justified in the eyes of God through the work of Christ. And the intersection of those two, he explains, is union with Christ. And so what makes this book so special is not that he talks about these very heady theological topics, is that he shows how you can access these things in your day-to-day life and how it comes into play, and the seemingly what you think are insignificant moments, how they all matter. Everything matters. And it's very encouraging just to find kind of meaning in your everyday life. And then lastly, it will not come as a surprise if you've been paying attention to my Insta stories or my recent videos, that this is on my favorites of spring 2021. This Beautiful Truth. What I have said is my favorite book of the year. This book meant so much to me. Sarah Clarkson shares so much of herself in here, and I just love the love of books, how beautifully she writes about faith in this, and just savoring and relishing any beautiful, delightful, lovely moments that you have in your day-to-day life. It's a beautiful, beautiful book. I will link my review. Please try this book. Please, I implore you to try this book. Those are my favorite books of spring 2021. Thank you as always for watching, and I'll be back with another video soon. Bye.